I get asked both of these two questions fairly commonly. I think they both come from a place of frustration, but are getting at the same idea. Two questions are, why can't you run the village like I run my household? Or why can't you run the village more like a business? We are taxed out as a community, and with that exhaustion, largely over the unsustainable way that the state has set up to fund education, we seem to then work off the assumption that any referendum that is brought to us is because the government is looking to hike our property tax again, or there has been a mismanaging of funds. So now they are reaching in our pockets. We are not in financial crisis. We have a balanced budget and have always historically had a balanced budget. That has come through prioritizing how to spend the money entrusted to us as a community, and at times making difficult cuts. This referendum was not put on the ballot because of some shortfall or deficit, but rather, just like you may sit around with your family and discuss how you can do better as a household, I wanted to bring that same question to our residents. Do we want to do better, fix roads faster, offer new events, reduce our reliance on property tax, and set higher standards for upkeep of blighted properties? That led the board to voting to put this measure out to the community to vote on in this election. Similar to that household question, I think when I get asked about running more like a business, it's out of this assumption that things are being mismanaged. Because, I mean, we're government, so what other assumption would you make, right? Here I'll say that I have spent my entire career working in organizational development. I work with companies to try and put their people and processes in the best position to succeed. So I would suggest that the better question, the better business question regarding home rule is, how does being home rule or not give us the best competitive edge as a community? Well, if we were to become home rule, we would be able to spread our revenue needs out to the 1.5 million visitors to our community, as opposed to just our 2,500 households. If we become home rule, we can better manage things like gaming, likely in short order sports betting and recreational marijuana. If we become home rule, we can fund our roads up from the 10% good today to 40% good within 5 years without increasing our property tax levy. And the edge, if we're not home rule, well, we have the ability to maintain status quo, and we have the benefit of Springfield's decision making on our behalf as a village. Home rule does give greater local authority to our community. One of the questions then that logically comes with that is, why should I trust the board with this tool? On the page here is a list of some of the things that the board has done over the last handful of years to envision that future and plan for the future, to save money or to cut, and investments that we've made to try and grow. And we're seeing growth in our economy. Home rule changes statutory authority with the state, but it does not change the character of our community or our leaders. We have historically been a very fiscally conservative community, one that balances budgets, does projects incrementally, buys used equipment, fundraises, and pursues grants. We've also been a community where we have not always raised the tax levy, even the max allowed today under state statute, or at all. We've cut expenses for our residents on things like village stickers and have maintained senior discounts on things like trash service and water supply. We've slowly grown our economy, with sales in Winthrop Harbor up over $5 million from 2010, when we adopted an economic development strategy, to 2017, and we saw 38 more businesses collecting sales tax in that same period. The leaders you elect today are empowered to make major decisions for our community, from setting the budget and prioritizing how things are spent, setting local fees and ordinances, establishing the local property tax rate up to the state statute, and setting a tone for the community. The commitment to do those things well doesn't change by being home rule or not. Home rule just now allows more responsive decision making in that gray area where the state hasn't placed statute. think it's also worth mentioning that these people that you've elected to represent you and drive results for our community, they're also your neighbors. And they're in these positions because they want to do what's best for our community.